Yo, peace, y'all. Welcome, young people. How y'all feeling? Cool. So much energy. I can't contain it so much. No, but y'all know it's Pastor P here. I got some awesome young students who have come out of the Eastern Star Church machine, the Eastern Star Church Village, and are gone on to college campuses and continuing their education and do some great things to prepare them for their educational career, prepare them for their personal lives as well. And we actually not too long ago had a scholarship prep day where these students were a panel for several high school seniors to prepare them for their college transition. And we thought it would be a great idea because the insights that they provided were so extremely key to the preparation of seniors, not just seniors. So if you're a junior, you're a sophomore, it's never too early to get this type of information from students of this caliber. So we just wanted to be able to have a little bit more conversation with them about what their transition was like from their senior year in high school to their freshman year on a college campus and then matriculating through for those who have been able to do that. So we'll start off with some real quick introductions. If y'all could just tell them who y'all are, what campus you attend, what your major is, if you've declared, and then we'll end up with my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Jones, good brother of mine. We've been doing a lot of work together for several years now, man. It's crazy how fast time goes, bro. But I'll let you intro once the students are done, and then you can just go ahead and set us up from there. So let's go ahead and start with you, Miss Hannah.
Hi guys, my name is Hannah Parson. I'm a freshman or rising sophomore at High Point University. I'm a political science and English major.
Hey y'all, my name is Kinsey Isaac and I graduated from the University of Notre Dame in 2020 and I'll be receiving my master's in health education next year from Columbia University.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Idris Redmond. I'm a rising sophomore at Wabash College. I'm going to major in psychology with a minor in business.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Riley Conwell. I was a first year and I'm a second year in industrial design at the University of Cincinnati. And I'm studying industrial design. If I didn't say that.
Awesome, good. So it's good to see we've got a wide variety of schools, some diversity in here represented in terms of major and also even locality. So a few in-state, a few out-of-state, private, public. So good. This means we've got a diversity of experience to kind of offer up. So we'll run through this from a couple of different angles. I don't know. You guys might be too young. Did you guys watch Chappelle's show? Yeah? No? Oh, dang. Okay. Oh, man. Missing the classics.
Man, yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that, guys. I'm so sorry to hear that.
I know. Idris, you said you watched it, or was that a no from you? Okay, it was Riley. You watched it.
Yeah, I watched it a little bit.
Oh, dang, you seen like 2 episodes. You caught it.
No.
I've seen like
Okay. Yeah, there's an episode where it was called Keeping It Real. It was when Keeping It Real goes wrong. But this is going to be like when Keeping It Real goes right. So if you haven't seen that episode, like watch that episode. That's a good one. When Keeping It Real goes wrong. But what we want to do is we definitely want to keep it real, but we really want to provide some insight. You know, college is one of those things that there's a picture in your mind. It's kind of like marriage. There's a picture in your mind and then you get there and you're like, oh, it's kind of like this. So we want to provide exactly. So we want to provide some more in-depth insight for those who have never been in the room. So to start, what we kind of want to do is ask a little bit about how you made your decision, right? Everyone makes their decision a little bit different. Sometimes people make college visits. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people see the dorms or people say, oh, they got a Chick-fil-A here. I'm coming here. I want to go to school here. They have a Chick-fil-A. This is where I want to get $40,000 in student loan debt because they have a Chick-fil-A. So talk to us a little bit about what went into making your college decision.
I guess I can start. I can start. So, in my experience, I did go on college visits. I went on college visits to all my top schools. I had 5 schools listed. Unfortunately, my parents allowed me to go on college visits to all 5. And I really think that's important because, one, you start to see the atmosphere you're going to be in for years, like 4 years, 5 years, whatever you're going for in that program. So getting that atmosphere feeling is very important so that you know what you're going to get into when you get there. Also, it's important for you to see, I feel personally it's important for you to see the student center, because even though it's not not the building where you're going to be at 24 hours of the day, it's something that you can go to get help, chill, relax, do something outside of your schoolwork. And that's important to see, because you need something to like have a space to go to with your friends, with yourself, and just like get away from all that work. Personally, I chose mine based off of the programs that it offered. It offered a co-op program, and I think co-op is pretty important because it's like internships, but it's better, if I have to say that. And University of Cincinnati is one of the top schools for co-op. It's where co-op was, I believe it like got popularized, and just because of that, like I really feel like it was an important choice for me to go there. I had other schools, other opportunities. North Carolina A&T. I applied for Washington University of St. Louis. I went on a visit there. I didn't get accepted, but Purdue, stuff like that, stuff from my program, I went for there. But I felt like University of Cincinnati was where I was going to end up, and I'm glad with my choice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's important to go on visits before you make your decision. In my case, my schools were kind of narrowed down to because of basketball. So it's kind of like the schools that were recruiting me were the ones that I made my decision to go visit to. And for those of you that don't know, Wabash College is an all-male school. So as soon as they recruited me, I was like, there's no way I'm going to a school that has straight dudes. Like, there's no girls there. But then I went on my visit and I actually like really liked it. I liked the coach. I love the school. They have a great reputation, similar to Cincinnati with like internships and after college and stuff like that. So, and then with the help of COD, I did get the COD scholarship there too. So that made a really big difference. So it's really important to go on a visit to see what you like and what you don't like, because it's not the same as what every college paints their picture of like the perfect university, but you have to go there and like actually experience it for yourself to see where you want to fit in most at. So I agree with that.
So you're saying it's kind of like a first date. People up front are like, nah, I'm perfect. Basically, I'm just like Jesus. I'm just like Jesus. And then you get behind the scenes and you're like, I wouldn't say just like Jesus. You like spell Jesus with a G, so it's kind of a little different. So, okay, that's good. That's good. Ladies, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about just like the importance of going to not just to college to like see the campus, but if they have like an open house or something, that can also be really helpful. Because for me, High Point, it's in North Carolina, and I went there by chance. Like I was just visiting family and I saw the campus and it was gorgeous. So obviously like it made the list because I was like, this is fantastic. But it honestly felt like it could have been a scam. Like they rolled out the red carpet and it was pretty, but like the professors weren't as good as they could be, or like it wasn't like a top-notch education type situation. But then I went to their open house in October of my senior year, and it just kind of like backed everything up and like let me know more about their programs and what they have to offer and like what their main focuses are and like what's important to that university. And I identified with a lot of those things as well. So that's really kind of what solidified it for me.
Good.
And just to quickly add to what everyone else has said, I also applied to 5 universities and I had the privilege of visiting 4. And I'll preface by saying that food should not be the pivotal decision, but I think that it should factor into it because that's going to be your food source for the next 4 years. So just thinking about walking around campus, people watching, how do people carry themselves? Do they look happy? Do they look fulfilled? Try the food, everything that you experience, ask yourself the question, like, am I comfortable coming of age in this sort of environment? And then just kind of let your answer to that question point you in certain directions. I also knew that I wanted to be a part of a really strong faith community. And so I tried to make a point to identify campus ministry resources. The University of Notre Dame is a Catholic university, and upwards of 80% of their student body is Catholic. And so I tried to be as intentional as possible in figuring out, what does Black ministry look like on this campus, and what do resources look like for people who are Christian but who don't identify as Catholic. And the last and probably most important thing was just getting a pulse on what the communities that you personally identify with do and how they feel about campus culture. And so almost all of my schools that I applied to were predominantly white institutions, except for Howard. That was the very significant exception to the rule. But to Idris's point and Jonathan's point, like, there are a lot of schools that will put on their brochures people who are every color of the rainbow, and they're very intentional in their marketing and trying to place you in that photo. But it's almost always an entirely different story when you get on campus. So figuring out, where's the Black Student Association? Where's the Black Student Union? Can I talk to some of the Black students? If I ask them, how do you really feel about this? Gauge their facial expressions, what they have to say about it, if they authentically enjoy it, so that you could figure out, if I were to be on this campus, where would I find myself, especially as a person of color. So when it came down to my top two choices, the CLD scholarship did make the difference. And I definitely don't have any regrets not going into college with as much student debt as I could have had.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I love that you mentioned campus culture. That is so huge. I don't know that most students entering into their college years kind of have that mindset to really understand the culture that they're going to be planted in, and understand that I have to grow, thrive in this culture. Like you talked about, identifying other student community groups, other student organizations, Black student unions, associations, or whatever. But I want to shift there. We talked about the choice. Let's talk about the transition, because a lot of times I know that like nonprofit organizations and a lot of community programs tend to focus on academic transition, the financial preparation, kind of some of those things. But when it comes to the personal transition, was there an area that you wish you were further prepared? We'll talk about a bunch of different, from the, spirituality to academics to, aid, roommates, just personal. But is there an area for each of you individually where you say, man, I wish I was further prepared, or someone kind of gave me some more insights as far as transition in this specific area?
Yeah, the thing that you said, you got there and you said, oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Unless you got there and you were like, I pretty much as well.
I had it all figured out. Like I was, no.
I guess I can start off again. Personally, my program, I did not know this. I thought my program, industrial design, was more of like the engineering side. Like you wouldn't be doing all the drawing and stuff. But when I get there, all my classmates had some level of art in them, and like it's varying levels. It doesn't matter where you come in, really. They'll teach you how to draw. But like just coming in and seeing my classmates draw portraits of people and I don't know, draw buildings that look like they can literally stand up today. Just seeing that part, it kind of got intimidating, because you're like, okay, I'm coming in, I know I'm capable of, or they wouldn't have got me in. I wouldn't be able to be in this seat, like right here with everybody else, if I'm not capable of doing it. But these people look like they've been doing it their whole life. And like, it's scary a little bit, but you have to overcome that. You have to overcome that feeling of like, okay, I don't know if I can do this, because you wouldn't be in that position if you couldn't do it. Like there's some reason they put you in that program for you to do this, and you have to be able to do that. So me seeing all these artistic people kind of got me scared, kind of did. I can admit that, but I mean, of course I got over it because I'm still in the program. I think I'm doing pretty well. So I just think like that intimidation factor of you like seeing other people that have abilities that you may not have honed as much, it's a little scary, but you can fight it.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said, because I think that's a metaphor for life, right? I mean, I think that happens in life sometimes, where maybe you're used to playing with guys your height, and then all of a sudden you step into an arena or a gym, and you're like, oh, oh, he's a little taller than oh, he's got a beard. I don't have a beard yet. Oh, I didn't even know you could do that with the ball. I didn't know they let you do that. So, but that's a really good example. And that does happen to us professionally. That happens to us collegiately. So I like that. And then the fact that you mentioned, having confidence in yourself and kind of muscling through that.
Yeah, it's huge.
I feel from a culture perspective or going into it, I think it was about what I expected. My college isn't that far from home, so I never really felt homesick or anything like that. And I saw my older sister went to college before me, so I kind of knew what it was like the showering and stuff and the dorm size and stuff like that. So I think I knew what to expect that way. But kind of similar to Riley, at least on an educational level, when I was going into college, I was thinking I was going to major in econ because that's kind of like the closest thing to business, and I really liked that. And I did good in econ in high school. And then I'm gonna throw myself out there. I got to school, first econ 101 class, bam, failed the first exam. I said, what? No way. And so now my major is psychology. I had to switch it up. That's not why I switched it up, but it's just because I took a psych 101 class and I found it really interesting. So I guess I wasn't aware, just being open to taking multiple classes and being being open to change up. Even if you thought your whole life you're gonna be a doctor, just not saying don't chase that, just be open to other things, because you want to, especially after college, you want to do it like you really love, not just to what makes the most money or anything like that. But so yeah, right now I'm really enjoying psychology, so that's where I'm gonna focus my major at. So yeah.
That's really good. And Hannah, you went all the way out from Indianapolis to North Carolina. Was that transition a little bit more difficult than you anticipated, or was it pretty smooth?
Yeah. I think I had definitely anticipated that there would be some kind of switch in my brain, hey, I don't have best friends or family that's super close that I can just call up and be like, come do this with me or come help me out with this or whatever. So that's something that I kind of anticipated. And I think the biggest probably shock for me, it didn't exactly happen on campus. It happened a couple months before. So I accepted or I did early decision for High Point. So I was committed to it in November, which is unusual for me because I usually really think stuff through and everything. So all my friends were still making their college decisions, and I was just kind of committed to this college. And so what had happened for me was, instead of going to campus and seeing oh, it's kind of like a country club PWI, they have that mentality a little bit, I made, it's not a bad mistake, but the slight mistake of going on YouTube and looking up people's opinions of my college, looking at their, videos and reviews. And so many of them were describing things that are somewhat true, but also a lot of them were negative and here's why I transferred to Virginia Tech. And so I think that culture shock happened for me early, which made me more nervous to actually get on campus. But I just had to remind myself that everyone's experiences are different. And even though some things remain the same, what happened for them may not happen for you, and vice versa. And so just getting on campus and finding a place where I fit in and felt good about the people that I was around and stuff like that was just really important, in making sure that that environment was one I could be comfortable in. And then I also kind of I didn't switch majors, but adding on English was just something that after my first semester, I was introduced to by one of my professors. And I realized that because I'm pre-law and English majors do the best on the LSAT. And so then I was just I have a couple extra slots second semester, so let me try out a couple classes because these are things I'm interested in to see what sticks. So I tried, I added English and I added a linear algebra because I liked, emphasis on the D at the end of that word, math. I stayed in that class for 2 days and then realized that that was not my calling. However, I did add English because I really enjoyed it and found that it was something that I wanted to stick with for a long time. So just being open to the fact that you may learn something new about yourself or enjoy a new class is really important too.
Yeah. I think what you hit on was big, and it speaks to the value of what's called bridge programs, right? When you have the opportunity to kind of get on campus early, have the opportunity to be exposed to classes early, all of those things give us the ability up front to just kind of know, oh, this is what I like, or oh, this is not what I like, or oh, this is just a little bit different. So that's really good.
Yeah, I was only going to add that this is coming from someone who went to a high school where a lot of guidance counseling was personalized, but the advising and guidance counseling process on college campuses, it's a lot less personalized, and it can take a lot to reach your advisor to make sure that you're taking the proper classes to graduate. And so I kind of took a shortcut in making sure that I was fulfilling all of my graduation requirements by talking directly to the director of my sociology department. Sociology was my major, and I bugged her a lot during my junior year of college. Like, are you extra sure I'm gonna graduate in May 2020 after 4 years? Like, do I need to take this? Do I need to take an extra credit? Like, does this fall in the right category for graduation? And it's just because pretty much from the beginning of my time on campus, trying to set up an appointment with the advisor that was assigned to me by the university was a little bit like pulling teeth. And so just to go back to the first question that was asked, I would definitely look at like student to teacher ratios and like advisor to student ratios, because if you really want that personalized experience where you can go into a guidance counselor's office and sit with them for more than like a 10-minute kind of consultation and really tell them about what your life is like, what's going on, your thoughts about wanting to switch majors and making sure that you can still graduate on time and switching majors, then I would definitely try to take a look into that, because I realize it's really important to me that the real adults in my life on campus knew my name and kind of knew my circumstances and had like the capacity and the willingness to like get to know me and actually help me through the academic side of college.
Really good.
Yeah, and that's excellent. I want to mention something Hannah had said earlier about making the visit to High Point kind of off chance, in that how important it is to visit a school, but also your proximity to a school can determine your ability to visit a school. And so like right now, I know a young lady who her top schools right now are like USC and UCLA and another school that's down south. And these are all schools she has never been within 100 miles of, let alone visited. And so just how important that is, because I think oftentimes earlier when we're making our decision, we may say, I want to go out of state. I'm tired of this. They have the people in that state, they're totally different than the people in my state. All right. And then what we find out is, people are kind of people everywhere. And your ability to actually get to a campus. I know a gentleman who went to school in Nebraska. First time he ever stepped foot on that campus is when he went to class. He didn't even go for orientation. And so, those visits are really important, but proximity can determine sometimes our ability to visit all of those schools. So, yeah. Pete, can we ask a little bit? I'm curious, can we get further into your personal transition? I know we talked a little bit about the academic transition and what that was like and what might've shocked you, but in terms of your personal transition, what do you feel like helped with that, and what went well and what might not have went as well as you would have liked? And Idris, I like the fact that you kept it real. You talked about that first test that you had. And Hannah, you mentioned that you liked math, right? And that's a part of it. It's like, hold on. In school, we called this math. This feels like a foreign language with numbers. Is this math? What is this? So, but talk a little bit about that personal transition. And because there can be so many facets to it. And then I got a follow-up to that as well that I think that Kinsey got into a little bit of it also.
Yeah, I'll start with this one. What really helped me personally was being on the basketball team. So when I got on campus, I didn't feel alone, or I didn't feel like I didn't have anyone, because I already kind of had like that built-in group that I was going to hang around with the guys a lot anyway. So personally, that helped a lot with the culture-wise, I feel like. And then my roommate, his name is Bradley. I knew him before going to school. So unlike Hannah, I kind of had somebody there with me. Like we were learning it. We were learning the culture together. We were learning what like figuring out what school was going to be like and everything like that. So I think that went really well with me. Just having somebody there makes a bigger difference than it seems, having somebody to lean on. Because, I mean, even though we were both probably really lost at times, it's like at least I'm not lost by myself. He's lost here with me, so that helps.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. Me, luckily, I had two of my friends. Well, now one of my other friends is transferring to IU, but I had one of my friends, and he was my roommate. And I feel like having that roommate that's like you're close with, that you've been close with for years, that'll help you a lot, because that's somebody that you know them inside and out. They know you inside and out, and you can connect with them even though you're going to a foreign place that you may not know as many people as you would think. Like in your high school, you may be the most popular person there, but when you get to college or university, you're just one person out of like thousands upon thousands, and you have to build that relationship up and up and up. You have to do that all over again. And I know that was a hassle in high school. So just having that one person that you can figure out your way with, figure out your path with is pretty important. I feel that my transition was also helped because I was in a program that's actually called Transitions. It's specially designed for, I know Jonathan had talked about like that bridge program. I was in Transition. It's specially designed for first year college students coming in, and it's for students of color. So the whole program is through like this black university center. It's called the AACRC at my school. It may be something different, like a Black Student Union or something like that. But it was specially designed for students of color that's coming in their first year, and you get a mentor. And I feel like that mentor part of it was pretty important for me also, because I have someone who's been there for years, and they know the school, they know the best place to eat. Like he showed me a place to eat. I was mesmerized. I hadn't had food like that in months because I've been at school. But he shows me places like that. You get to know people that have been there. They have their own experiences. You can share your experiences in your first year with them. They have tons of more experiences with you. But just finding some place to go, finding somebody that you can connect with is pretty important also. It may not be in the Black Student Union, but I recommend it, because if you're a student of color, you have to have something that you can go off of, somebody you can connect with. But if you have like a group of people that you can connect with, share your thoughts with, and other things like that, get experiences, get help on anything. If you need help on anything, that's important too for your transition.
So the fact that it's making it culturally relevant, right? So I like that you mentioned that. I think that's why the Black Student Union can be such a good starting point, is because it is culturally relevant. You know, you're around some people that probably has some similar experiences, some similar thoughts, and appreciate things the way that you appreciate them, versus if you're with people and you're like, oh man, we don't jive at all. You put raisins in your potato salad. I don't know what we can agree on, right? So that I got you. That makes sense. Hannah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about going into college, like not having someone there that you know. But while we're on the subject, some of my good friends now from college we're literally friends because we're like, you're Black, I'm Black, like let's be friends, and it worked out. So yeah, that's just definitely important to have someone that you can relate to on that level, especially. But just going in and not really like knowing anyone, the first week, I'm not gonna lie, was kind of rough. Like my roommate came in with her best friend from 7th grade, and we're all in the honors program. So like you live with the people that you have some of your classes with, which is super convenient. But I was just able to see them, like, you know, if she wanted to go somewhere, like she had a buddy for that, or if she wanted to get lunch as like a buddy. And now I'm super close with that girl too. But just going in and not knowing anyone, it was almost easier because it forced me to introduce myself to more people. Like I didn't have any type of comfort, safety, anything. It was just like everybody's new, I know no one. But also it just reminded me of the importance of like getting to know people in your classes. Like you don't have to be best friends with them, but whoever's sitting next to you, kind of make a little pal, get their number or something. Because when you're confused or they're confused, you can like grab lunch and work on your homework together. And that can be a way to just make like a buddy. You don't have to be best friends forever or anything, but just like that's also a way to brighten your day because you feel like you have sort of a new friend on campus. And so for me, it didn't take like a super long time to get acclimated. Like I said, that first week may feel a little lonely, but after that, it gets better. You get to know more people when you walk on the street. I remember talking to my roommate because she only knew the one girl. And we saw each other in passing one day on the street on campus, and we got so excited because we didn't know anyone else. But the longer you're there, the more you'll like start to recognize people and like get to know them and feel more comfortable in your environment. So whether you go with someone you know or someone you don't know, you will make friends, you'll get acclimated, and it gets better.
Yeah. And just so you know, when you said to be real, I thought what you were about to say was, some of my friends put raisins in potato salad, and I was about to be like, Hannah, who are you hanging out with? You need new friends. You need new friends. Yeah. No, that's really good. I think you bring out a really good point. And so what I want to kind of ask as a follow-up then, because I think this kind of broaches it, right? It's tough sometimes, right, when we transition to PWIs, right? All across the country, Black students are on a ton of different types of campuses, whether they're HBCUs, PWIs, commuter schools, different things, but there's an emotional transition as well, right? And so as we mentioned, some of that emotional transition that happens in the way of getting involved with Black student unions, finding and meeting other Black students on campus, right? And really what that just speaks to is people that have similar experiences that you kind of jive with, right? And when you're making a tough transition or you're in a tough environment, it helps to have some people around you that can appreciate the same things to ease that transition and to kind of make it a home. So emotionally, how did you guys kind of make that transition? I don't know if you relied on video games, kind of getting out, and I know somebody mentioned earlier getting to the student campus center because that's a place where they kind of decompress. But how did you kind of make that emotional transition of not being home? Because I remember my mother dropped me off and pulled straight out of the parking lot, and I was just like, "You just gonna leave me with these people? We don't even know these people." But how did you make that emotional transition inside? P, don't act like that didn't happen to you, P. You didn't get to campus and you took it like a G. You was just like, nah, I'm good. I ain't need them nowhere.
No, I like them cracks in your voice, man. That hit it right there. It was just like, Mama, we ain't gonna come back and visit. Yeah, it could be tough, but yeah, I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts on that.
Idris, you cried. Tell me you cried, Idris. It's just a tear. Was it like a tattooed tear or what was it?
No tears. I was kind of excited. I was ready to be out the house and that sense of freedom. I would say I know Mackenzie touched in this last time in the previous panel. So like I think she said she headed straight for like the Black students and like straight to looking for Black people. So on my campus we have MXI, which is a Malcolm X Institute, which pretty much is like the Black Student Union. And I did get a part of that this past year. And I think that really helped emotionally because sometimes when you're at a PWI, it just seems like more homey when you get to places like that and you see people that have similar backgrounds as you and you can relate on different things. And sometimes it feels like your Caucasian counterparts are kind of not judging you, but sometimes it's easy to feel kind of like wound up because you don't want to do something or say something or act a certain way just because it's different. So it's just easier to help you relax and at least emotionally let go of some of that tension that you might have built up inside you.
Well said, man.
And which is key because I think when you're the only person, when you find yourself in a room and you're the only person that looks like you, then interesting things can happen from there. And then we also process those things in a very interesting way as well, where all of a sudden it's like, Kinsey, so you people, how is it that you people do this? That can be part of it. People, I think today, most of us hear the term microaggressions, and it's also hard to be at a PWI and not experience microaggressions. So you do kind of have to find, your quiet place in general, not necessarily just in regard to race, but how do you guys go about that process of kind of finding the quiet place or having that time where you fail a test or you get a result that just isn't expected, whether it's a test, whether it's from a social interaction, whatever it is. What do you do personally to kind of rebound and just keep your head in the game? Or take your head out of the game for a moment so you can get back in later?
I guess I can point this out. I'm not that big of an outdoors person. Like, I'm not one to like go into like the wild, hunt a bear or something like that. But what I will do when I need like some space or like need something to calm me down, I might just go for a walk, or I might just, me personally at my college, all the stadiums are open. So I might just sit in the stadium and watch people throw a football or something like that. Or sit in the stadium and just listen to my music and just vibe out and zone out or something like that. Just getting away. Or I might just open a window in my dorm and just listen to the sound of the street. It's just like, it kind of gets you like mesmerized. And you lose like that sense of like, okay, I just did this bad. What am I going to do? How am I going to get this back? My mom's going to kill me. I swear I can't show her my grades. Stuff like that. Just losing that sense and finding some place to just go and just chill there. It's chill for a reason, because nothing's happening there. That you want to keep that element of like nothing's happening and just sit there and just know that you made it this far, and you just need to take some time and wind down and just be you, but not the sporadic, not the erratic you. Be the calm you, and just find yourself in your head and like, okay, I gotta process this. Let me process it slowly instead of like that quick version I was trying to do 5 seconds ago, and just listen to my music and just chill out and figure out the next steps. That's important. You don't want to get overwhelmed in college. When you get overwhelmed, that's when stuff starts to pile up. And that's when you start losing that element. You just want to know that you have it all controlled. It may just take some time.
Yeah, my answer to this question is kind of like a hybrid of addressing your quiet place and how I emotionally transitioned. I had a go-to friend, I think, from the very beginning. So actually someone who I had met through CLD had also committed to going to Notre Dame. And at Notre Dame, you're randomly assigned to a single sex dorm, an all girls or an all boys dorm. And so when our assignments were released, I immediately called her and I said, okay, what dorm are you in? And then we pulled up a grid of the campus and I'm like, okay, you're 3 dorms down from me. So if I ever need a good cry, for example, then it's like, okay, I'm only going to pass 1 guy's dorm and 1 girl's dorm. And that and if I really book it, I can minimize the chance of someone seeing me cry and freak out until I get to your room, which is going to be my panic room for the next 4 years. And it kind of was. But honestly, I think that you can have a person just as much as you can have a physical place as your safe space. And so I would kind of keep that in mind. So like just going to her room, even when her actual room number changed over the years and she became a resident assistant, was the room that I would go to and sit in when I just really needed peace. When I needed to be with that friend where the energy was always really reciprocated. And so I felt like, she'll be there for me just as much as I'm willing to be there for her, follow through on all of her commitments, always present, even when she's really busy. And so I think that just helped me a ton. And then even when I was able to just go outside of her physical room and talk to her, even if we just caught each other at Starbucks and sat and socialized over 10 minutes of tea in between our classes, for me, that was like my quiet space, my safe space. And with the hustle and bustle of college, it was really nice to have a person as opposed to a space be my quiet space, just because like the environment was ever changing, and your quiet space could very easily become a not so quiet space, depending on who's there, what's going on in your head, what your circumstances are. So having people to decompress with was great. And there, I mean, for half of my semesters there, we didn't have a single class together. And unless we were very intentional about it, there was almost no way we would cross paths. But we made a point to, whenever we could. And over time, I eventually had other people who I was able to have strong relationships of that nature with. And I'm just really grateful for that. And as someone who is, you know, introverted, it was definitely a challenge to, you know, put myself out there and actively be like, you know, I want to be your friend, and not in a superficial way, but like in a way where like amidst, you know, 10,000 people on campus, I'm still gonna, you know, pull you out and wrap my arms around you. But when I did take that leap, I can't say that I regretted it.
Yeah, Hannah, do you want to chime in, or we can transition to the next question? Sorry, Jonathan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that is incredibly key, because I think we can all attest to, if we think about everything that's happened to us while we were on a college campus or while we were enrolled in college, how many of us wanted to tell our parents everything that has happened to us while we were on campus, right? Like, no one. Exactly, right? And we love our parents, but there's always going to be situations where it's like, I do not want to talk to my parents about this. So in that case, you do need a friend, right? You need a friend, you need an uncle, you need a mentor, you just need somebody else sometimes just to listen, right? And I think most campuses now especially have resources, because we know that college can be one of the most mentally isolating times. And so most campuses offer great resources to sit down and talk to therapists as well, because you need that sounding board. So I think that's a great highlight, Kenzie.
Yeah, and that's life, right? It's like we keep saying, a lot of this stuff is a metaphor for life, and that's something that I'm constantly, I'm really intentional about making sure that young students understand as they're preparing themselves to go live independently or semi-independently, because that's what we're talking about, is having other people you can depend on, right? People you can lean on, people to help reinforce the stuff that you already know. When you were talking about kids, you talking about running by without somebody seeing you cry on your way, it remind me of the old cry rooms that they be having at churches, like, because you need to go in there and get yourself together and slobber a little bit, and, like Riley was saying, just reground yourself and then just come back out. Like, that is so important, just for life in general. So I want to ask the guys this, and then maybe we could transition a little bit more to maybe some of the academic accountability or anywhere else that y'all might want to take the conversation. But do y'all cut y'all's own hair? Like, how did y'all take some clippers with y'all, or any of that? Did y'all find a barber on campus immediately? How did y'all do that piece? And do y'all do laundry? Do y'all do y'all laundry, or y'all just them ones that's the filthy pile? That's the dirty pile. We can still wear that a couple of more times. Like, how did y'all transition in terms of grooming and your laundry?
Yeah, so my school is in Crawfordsville, Indiana. I'm sure you've never even heard of it. Crawfordsville. So I was looking, as soon as I got on campus, who can cut my hair. And fortunately for us, I didn't take anything with me, but I have been looking into it because it's also a way to make some quick money on campus cutting other people's hair. So, but we have somebody on campus that cuts hair. And if not, I would drive home to get my hair cut, because I wasn't gonna go to Great Clips or Sports Clips to get my hair cut. And fortunately for me, my parents have been making me do my laundry since about middle school, so it wasn't no big deal. So yeah, I did my own laundry too. So
for me, being a couple hours away, I didn't have that luxury of driving home to my own barber for him to cut my hair. So I just thugged it out, really. That was just my plan. I had a feeling I wanted to learn how to cut my own hair, line myself up. That's probably something I will get to, because like Idris said, you can make good money from that, because there's not a lot of barbers at school. You may see it at HBCUs. There's people at definitely HBCUs. I went there, and I went there on a trip, like a trip, just looking at different HBCUs. And almost at every one of them, I think I found a barber, someone who could cut hair. and that's popular HBCUs. But at a PWI, you don't see a lot of barbers, from my experience. So just that, I was able to thug it out and not look too raggy, not look too scruffy when I came back, and I was able to get my hair cut back here. But I'm not gonna try and thug it out every single year. That's not the plan. I just want to put that out there. As far as laundry, I do laundry myself. Personally, like Adri said, I've been doing laundry since I was young. My parents got me into that, which is pretty good, because if I didn't know how to do laundry, I would be in trouble. But yeah, you would have a bin. You would know I had bins for whites, my colors, and then other miscellaneous stuff. I didn't have like a clean, dirty, and then like heavily dirty, because I mean, if it's dirty, you want to wash it. You don't want to have to like wear something really dirty. So fortunately, I had enough clothes that I didn't have to willingly wear anything dirty, stuff like that. And so it was important for me to wash my clothes. I wash my bed sheets too. It's something I've started getting into, which is important, because you don't want to sit and sweat. If you just worked out and you go to lay down in your bed, you come back and you're sweating and you want to do it over again. I mean, you want to wash your bed sheets. Personally, I'm trying to get more into it. So, but yeah, I do laundry.
Riley, I'm so glad you said that. I was concerned. I saw the concern on Percy's face too, because I was like, oh my God, is Riley about to say he just thugged out his laundry? He just thugged out his laundry too. It's like, I thugged out my hair, I thugged out my laundry. I was just like, shoot, I just, get at least a couple wears that, Bible says, come as you
breathe, man. I stocked up on the Febreze, you know what I'm saying? And I just thugged it out.
Yeah, you can use your, one thing at my school, you can use your card. They give you a card for your school. It's like, for mine, it's a Bearcat card. I think IU, they have Crimson Cash or something like that. That's what I know. But they give you like money that you can use on campus. And I advise you to use some of that money on your laundry. Like you can use anything else, any other cash, your credit cards and stuff like that, or anything else. But laundry, you should at least have some of that in your cash.
They have laundry when we was in college. Did they have on your card, on your campus card, Jonathan? Did they have laundry? You can use it for laundry too.
Yeah, but it's not like they don't give you the money. That money comes on your bursar bill, right?
It comes on your bursar, but we didn't have the ability to use our card, the funds that were on our card to do laundry. You had to have some quarters and stuff. Like
we could use the card. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we were talking about Black student unions, right? And I think Idris, I think it was you, was talking about the Malcolm X Center that you guys have there. And that's another really big highlight. All campuses don't necessarily have like Black student buildings, right? And so I took a group of students to visit. I'm not going to throw the university under the bus, but it is a public university here in Indiana. And they took us to this building and they were like, yeah, this is the Black Student Center. And I said, this is half a house. This is like 1.5 rooms. What do you mean this is the Black Student Culture Center? But versus other schools have entire large sprawling buildings that are devoted, to being spaces where people can feel heard, represented, seen, and engage in. And so all that is not created equal. You might mess around and be like, you said you want to go to the Black Student Culture Center? Yeah, it's a 1-bedroom apartment about 4 blocks down. Take a left. You're going to go about 20 more minutes down. Yeah, it's actually right behind Walmart. So it's just good to kind of highlight that as well. But I do want to mention socially, because we're kind of on the subject. Pete talked about getting your hair cut, some of those other things. We haven't really hit on roommates. And so I do kind of want to ask, like, that social piece, what are some of the lessons that you learned socially, right? Who you decide to roommate or don't decide to roommate is going to hit you up front. So I just kind of want to ask, what are some of the lessons that you learned socially? I know when I got to college, the first college party I went to, it was a buddy of mine that I knew from high school. He's a year or two older than me. And he's like, oh yeah, we can go over here and see my friends. And so I go, and I did not expect to be there that long. And they were drinking alcohol and I didn't drink alcohol. And it got real boring real quick. And I was like, when can I get home? Are you going to take me home? And he's like, I can't leave, man. I've been drinking. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stranded at an off-campus party.
I'm stuck.
This is a terrible decision. Oh God, I think somebody ended up taking me home. I didn't even know. But I just want to ask, what are some of the social lessons that you kind of learned, or the tips that you have socially that help ease that transition a bit?
Just on the note of roommates, I learned that I like being by myself a lot. I don't think that there was anything that was like especially negative or adverse about my roommate experience, but I think that it was just like a lot of little things that I had taken for granted at home. I think that Hannah mentioned during the last panel, like temperature, for example, and like having people who like have the same body temperature as you. That's just really difficult to find. People who are okay with, you know, having your hair products take up half of the little shared cabinet that we have, because I just need that much in products. People who won't hover. So this actually happened to me, and I wouldn't call it a microaggression, but definitely something that wasn't like, it never became normalized for me. But like one of my roommates, she kind of hovered while I was doing my hair and like laying down my edges one time. She was just like intrigued. I think her mind was just blown over something that I do every day and I don't even do it well. So just having a space where I felt like I didn't have to be on all the time, or that I didn't have to like police my own movements to make sure that everyone else was comfortable, is something that's just extremely important to me. And I should note that at Notre Dame, we're also randomly assigned roommates. And so it's really funny because my Black friends who are randomly assigned Black roommates on a campus where 3% of the student population is Black, we looked at them like they were unicorns. We're like, how did that even happen? Like, wow. But I learned that, you know, even cultural differences aside, I just really like having my own space. And I think that it helped keep like a lot of my close relationships intact by not just becoming roommates with people who I was, you know, super, super close to, and then letting that roommate dynamic color our relationship in like a less favorable way. But overall, I would also say that when it comes to social adjustments, like try to have a sense, something that reminds you of home and that gives you a sense of normalcy. So I remember I was really sad when my mom dropped me off at Notre Dame and she was going to leave. It was on a Sunday. And so the friend that I had mentioned before, who's kind of like my really close friend, she took me to her room and we live streamed church, because I like to live stream church on Sundays, and we just live streamed church. And so in my head, I was able to tell myself, this is just a regular Sunday morning. And so the, you know, 2.5 hours that my mom was driving home, I didn't have to like have my head be overpopulated by thoughts of like, this is it, I'm on my own now, because I wasn't. I had my friend and I had church. So that was really, really helpful. I also learned too that, you know, parties, they aren't my speed. I mean, overall, I'm a bit of a boring person by most standards when it comes to social things, but like you can hang out with people in non-party settings where people don't get drunk, where people don't get high as a kite. And like there are such things as kickbacks where you literally just sit with your friends, and you know, the one who cooks really good food cooks food, the one person who like makes really good desserts makes good desserts, and you guys watch documentaries and you catch up on life and you joke and you know, exchange notes about different, you know, classes, not in like a, you know, a boring academic way, but like, don't take this professor, I just got done with this semester, don't take this professor, and just share life with people where you guys are, you know, totally sober and just present. And I like that. You don't have to jeopardize who you are and what your social preferences are to have what you would consider genuine fun. And if people make you feel that way, tune it out, because I guarantee you that on any campus that you go to, even if it's a really, really small campus, you are going to find people who are like-minded, and not everyone's going to be like, want to do wild things. You just have to scope them out, which brings the whole thing full circle for me, and like just seeking out people who look like you from the very beginning, and then eventually your network will expand until you're able to identify those people whose social life is more your speed.
Really good, Kenzo. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I will say this, like, you know, I didn't pick my roommate. My roommate was from Jersey. And so good guy. It was you know, your roommate can be like a ready-made friend to have up front. It's like, oh, okay, hey, you got to campus and here's a friend for you to have until you realize how different you may actually be, right? And so it was a good experience for the first couple of weeks. It never really became a bad experience. You know, everybody's discovering themselves when they get to college, academically, socially, emotionally, in so many different ways. You know, part of being on campus or part of college can be alcohol and it can be drugs. And just because you're not involved in those things, it means that even if you're not involved in those things, somebody around you may be involved in those things. And so it could be your roommate. So I had a roommate who was, and those are things that he never really did in the room. Eventually he ended up moving out and moving in with another guy. And then I got signed to another roommate. But your people skills, your interpersonal skills, how well can you get along with people? How do you respect people, respect boundaries? You know, those things up front really make a huge difference. And there's a learning curve if you're not communicating directly about those things. So especially men, you know, I learned it about women too. Like women, you know, I think I grew up thinking all women were really neat and they never had junky rooms. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, y'all, some of y'all like boys in a way. Okay, y'all human beings too. Okay, I didn't know that. And then some guys, you know, mom's not there to tell them to clean up their room, and their room can look a really particular way. You know, I know we messing with Riley about, you know, thugging it out with laundry. I had a roommate who thugged it out freshman year with some of his laundry. I was like, hey, did he just go in his hamper and take that out and put that on? Like, oh my, those are gym clothes. Oh my gosh, right? But
take the deep whiff. You got to take the deep whiff. Okay, this could be one. This could be one. But I am glad you hit the piece on room cleanliness, right? I mean, and even when you talk about it, as we kind of transition to the academic stuff, right? Study habits and having your own space, right? Like you were saying, like, nah, man, I need the room to look a certain way. I need my desk. I need the room to smell a certain way, to sound, for me to feel like I can use this space to study, right? And to find me to. And if you have a roommate that's not really that's not really well, you know, clean, they dirty dishes and pizza boxes and stuff laying around, you kind of had those hard conversations like, hey, can we talk? Like, I'm gonna need you to help keep this, like, how can I help us keep this place looking a certain way? So have any of y'all had to have those type of, whether it's for academic stuff, have y'all had to have some of those conversations with y'all's roommates, or y'all been pretty good as far as that? It's been smooth enough.
Yeah, no, I think that's real. I can't really focus and study in my room unless it's clean. Like it's kind of like really clean. So I got to the point kind of where like I just wouldn't even study in my room. Really, I just kind of go somewhere else to do that. And it's not even like a diss on my roommate or anything like that, because I was messy too. But sometimes, like, I don't know, it's just sometimes I just like it really clean when I'm studying, just so I can like have a clean mind and like be able to be focused on one thing. So yeah, that's definitely something, if you don't know your roommate, you want to talk to him about. Even if you do, you want to talk to him or her about, just so you guys are on the same page there. Communication is really important, because if not, especially if you don't know your roommate, you can really start to get fed up with little things, and like you might think that they know, but they really don't know, and you guys aren't just on the same page. So it's just really smart. Communication is really key, especially when dealing with new roommates, just so you guys are on the same page.
Hannah, were you going to join something in too? Looked like you were going to unmute.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the room thing, like for me, it was more a bathroom. So I had a suite. So like you share the bathroom between the two rooms. And of the other room, one of the girls, she would like clean the bathroom every week. Like she had no problem with it. She was just her thing. And we're like, okay, thank you, you go. And then she left after first semester. And our other suite mate just sheds like a lot. Like they would know that I would just get in the shower and be like, oh, white girl hair. And so she's also the type of person, she's so sweet, but like her feelings get hurt really easily. And I'm not a super confrontational person, but I would just have to be like, you know, sometimes you have to get up the courage and just be blunt with it. And if something's bothering you or it's really messy and like the other person should realize it by now. You just have to kind of nicely say like, hey, your hair is all over the shower floor, or your hair is everywhere, or whatever else. Because that affects you too. Like, it's your living space and it's not necessarily your responsibility to clean up after that, but it's also important to just have an understanding with your roommate, suite mate, whoever, like, hey, this is bothering me. And it doesn't have to be a big deal either.
Yeah. When are your friends leaving? Like, I just came, I'm getting out the shower. I got nothing but a towel on. You got friends in the room. What are we about to do about this? Are they about to leave? Because I got to put clothes on, right? Like, you're dating and you got a significant other. I was planning on studying and sleeping. I didn't know y'all were going to be watching movies in the background, right? But all those things, kind of the intersectionality of all of us in terms of what we bring to it, that's kind of a really crucial point. I know I mentioned studying, and P, I think we were going to talk a little bit about academics. I just had a conversation with someone else who works on a collegiate university campus yesterday. And we were just talking about how you get to school and you kind of have to learn a few things in terms of, up until then, we're kind of told how to learn. Like, hey, here's a worksheet. Hey, I want you to do this. I want you to make this. I want you to there's a prescription for learning. We get to college and sometimes there's less of a prescription. Can you guys talk a little bit about how you made that transition into discovering how you learn best and maybe where you learn best and your learning styles?
I can say a little bit. Personally, I've known my whole life, I've loved to work with my hands. So hands-on learning is something that I really like to do, especially with what I've always loved to do. I've always loved playing with Legos. I feel like it really stems from when you were younger, because when you're younger, you learn all this stuff. And I've always loved to play with Legos. I've always loved to build stuff. I've always loved to put stuff together, take it apart, and then put it back together. So having that hands-on learning is pretty useful. But that also comes with the visual element. So me just listening to a lecture or something like that, recording the audio and stuff like that, that wouldn't work as well for me. Personally, I really can't learn well if you like record something and then play it back to me. I can't visualize it as well. Even though I can try, I feel like visual learning, seeing something happening in front of me and then actually like doing it in person, that really is the way that works for me best.
Yeah, I agree with that. In high school, I'd say I was a pretty smart student, and not that it was easy, but it was a lot easier than college, as in like, I didn't really have to take a lot of notes, and I would just kind of pay attention, and then I would do good in class. And then I got to college, and first semester, my classes, I didn't really take that good of notes, and then take a couple of exams. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot different than it is in high school. So for me, just I have to take notes in class, and I have to like active notes. So kind of like not just copying what the teacher says, but kind of trying to pick out the main points. That helps a lot, especially when you go back to study. And then also studying with groups of people. It's kind of hard to sometimes get the courage to ask somebody if you want to study. But I've learned this freshman year that people want to study with you just as much as you want to study with them. They kind of, just like you don't want to ask them, they don't really want to ask you. But when you study with a group of people, you get so many different perspectives and stuff that it's really beneficial. So if you can, just get somebody's number, get their Snapchat or something, and be like, hey, did you get this in class? I'd be like, no, I'm glad you said that because I don't understand it at all either. So then you get together and study. So that's important too.
Yeah. And Idris, I think you hit on something there. I think that's a huge adjustment sometimes to college, right? In terms of like, oh man, I got by. Like you can, in high school, you can be smart or you can be rather maybe intelligent, right? Whereas it's like, yeah, I kind of know some things, I kind of understand, the general precepts that are involved in this. And, I can wing it a little bit and like, you can get a B just being generally intelligent, right? College is a lot different. It's a lot different. And I know I heard Jeremiah Wright say, he talked about his college experience. Sometimes we call home and his mother could hear it in his voice that something didn't go well on a test. And being spiritual, you pray and you get in the test room, you're like, God, please take over this test. All right. And his mother told him that said, don't expect God to be with you in the test room if he wasn't with you in the study room. And I thought that was profound. I was like, oh, that's actually a really, really good point. All right. You can't pray your way through a test. You study your way through a test, but prayer is not, that's not a good strategy for all your tests.
Lord, I speak A's over this test. Just do it. You do it. I don't want to do it. You do it, God. Do it. Like, God, you do it. I said, I'm the helper. I will come and help. No. But ladies, that same question, did y'all have to transition a lot in your study habits from high school to college, or was it pretty much the same? You already kind of had a flow. And then another point, if you want to add on to that, Kenzie, you mentioned earlier talking to your friends about professors. And I know they have apps and different websites now, Rate My Professor. So your study habits, and then just kind of choosing classes and having those conversations like Idris talked about in study, like, hey, don't take that. Like, touch on those two for us, ladies.
Something that I learned pretty quickly in college was the time of day when I'm most productive. I am a night owl, and I'm definitely the type of person who's okay with staying up really, really late and getting work done, burning the midnight oil, if not for the quietude that like surrounds me. My favorite time to work is when I know when everyone else is asleep. And I remember going into my freshman year thinking, yeah, I could take, the 8:20 a.m. classes. I had to get to school at 7:30 a.m. every day in high school. And I don't know what happened to my body between like 2016 and 2017, but my body's like, you're not 6:30, you're not waking up at 6:30 anymore. It's just not going to happen for you. It's just not in the cards for you. So I decided pretty quickly that, I needed to take classes that started at, 9:30 at the earliest, and then just start my day then and give myself grace for not being able to be like, the Energizer buddy that I somehow was in high school, where I could, wake up at 6 a.m. and then power through classes and extracurriculars through 10 p.m., 11 p.m. That wasn't feasible for me anymore, especially with the workload demands, social demands, just adjusting to having to do it on my own and having to take personal accountability for things that I'm realizing now just like very conveniently fell into place for me in high school, being surrounded by my parents in a very certain, community and support system. So for me, that was really big. If I started an assignment at 10 p.m. because I had slept in that day, then that's okay, as long as I'm going to sit and focus and get the assignment done now. And so that's something that I kind of learned about myself. In terms of my style of learning, it's interesting because I think that I am a very auditory learner. When I took this organic chemistry class, incidentally, right before I dropped pre-med entirely, we had these model kits that had like different like sticks and marbles that served as molecules. And in order to learn the content, they wanted us to build out these chemical models to understand how different elements piece together. And for some reason, it never felt right in my hands. Like I always wanted to hurl the thing across the room. And so I realized that's just not how I learn. But when I sit in a lecture, or if people just tell me things, I'm able to kind of keep it all in my brain and process it and then give it back in whatever sort of way. And so being in a space where I really had to learn that that's how I operate, I was really grateful to figure that out about myself. And then one thing that the Black students have at Notre Dame, so we have this huge group chat with all of the students who identify with the Black community on campus, and they have this running spreadsheet that's probably been live for about 8 or so years now, where it's a version of Rate My Professors in a way, but it's, you put the classes in categories, and this is how you get your theology and philosophy requirement. This is how you get your humanities requirement. Here are the best professors if you want to get an easy A. Here are the best professors if you really want to learn. Here are the best professors if you want like an intimate like classroom environment. and like what the course requirements are. So learning quickly whether you're an essay person or an exam person is definitely helpful, especially when you think about what major you want to do. So a lot of people I know who are really into writing and did school yearbook and newspaper and stuff, they went in being journalism or English majors until they realized that like almost everything that they would do was write. And I think that's important to explore and learn about. And I think that spreadsheet helped people to kind of explore that for themselves in detail. But I think that the most significant part about the spreadsheet is that it was curated by the Black community. Because there are some professors that by like a lot of other people's standards, they're great. But if they constantly microaggress certain students or don't allow students to feel welcome, then they're not going to appear on the spreadsheet. And so you get a different opinion than if you were to ask a white counterpart who never feels like their intelligence or ability to do work is questioned in a classroom environment. And so I was just really grateful that we had that. If at your university you don't have something like that, I encourage you to start it, because all you really have to do is like open up a Google sheet and people will populate it. But it's something that, like I said, it's been around 8 years, has so much longevity. It's helped so many students avoid academic situations that were overly stressful or toxic for them. So I'd say that's like my overall kind of academic experience that helped me to thrive as much as possible.
Similar to Kenzie, the whole time management thing, whether that be in terms of like, I can't wake up at 5:45 a.m. and go till 10 p.m. and then do my homework for like the next 3 hours anymore. I don't know what shut off in my body, but it's not giving what it needs to give anymore. But so like that definitely applies. I figured that my classes from like 9:15 and 9:45 gave me enough time. In the rest of my day, I figured out that I am like a nighttime person, but I really like using my afternoons for homework. So even if you're not a super morning person, like you can still get your classes over with in the first half of the day. And I kind of form my schedule to where like it'll go from 9:15 or 9:45, and then all my classes are done by 3, which just like high school is kind of like around that same time area or whatever. So then if you want to do your homework in the afternoon, or you want to like take a nap first and then do your homework or something, you definitely can. Another thing I learned, this was the biggest, you guys kept asking like, what's the biggest shock? And I know it's not that big of a shock, but for me, I had classes, like in high school, I had my classes every day and they were like 45 minutes. I got here, I sat in a class, it just kept going. It was going and going, and we reached like an hour and 45 minutes and I really thought I was gonna fall asleep. It was bad. The classes are longer and you likely will not have them every day, but just starting to kind of like figure out how to like manage that time. And even if it's keep yourself awake by like taking good notes or just doing whatever you need to do to focus so you can be prepared for your next test or quiz or paper or whatever, is definitely important and something that I kind of had to get acclimated to. And then the last thing I'll say is just like figuring out your professors. So that was definitely something that was really helpful for me first semester, because you just don't know, like the spreadsheets are helpful and rate my professor and everything, but just kind of like figuring out your relationship to them and how they like to teach and like the certain things that they pick out for tests and like what they use from the notes to get, whatever. Or like how their study guides work, or just how they interact with their students in general. And that was helpful for me, especially because I had 2 of my first semester professors. I had them again this semester. So then like when people come into the class, you can kind of help them out a little bit, or at least like what this professor is going to be expecting of you, how much effort you have to put in. Like, yes, it's good to give 100%, give your best all the time. But if you only need to give 60%, so you can still get that A, and then the other classes, like maybe in other classes where you need to give your 100%, figuring that out as soon as possible is definitely really important, so you can kind of like maneuver your classes and make it all work out for you.
So good.
Yeah, that is really good. That is really good. I think that these are gems to kind of offer up that no one kind of tells you ahead of time, especially before you end up getting to campus. I know we're going to close here in a minute. First, I have one more question, and it was kind of about the spirituality part. All right. And so I know Mackenzie kind of hit on it, and I'm Mackenzie, you know what? I'm convinced you're going to heaven. You know, you were like, you know, I got to campus and I immediately pulled up a sermon and I'm like, wow, okay, all right. Well, if anybody's going to heaven, then certainly. But I want to ask, right? So, and I think at the end, I kind of want Pete to share a little bit too. But I guess what's kind of been your spiritual journey on campus? You know, I don't think it's separate from anything we talked about. I think it surrounds everything we talked about. The things that we've been talking about are like the marbles, and the spirituality component is really like the sand around those marbles in a jar. So, you know, talk to us, I guess, a little bit about your journey, if you haven't already, just spirituality, because I think it's everyone's journey in college spiritually is a little bit different. Just like we said, you have to figure out how you learn best to study and prepare for classes. You kind of have to learn, like, well, spiritually, like, what's my lane? You know, what one person does may not be what another person does, but what have you guys found in terms of what works for you? Obviously, there's no wrong answer at all. So,
I've learned that part of going to college and being on your own independently is also being your own Christian. It's no more moms waking me up to go to church or telling her to remind me to read my Bible or something or things like that. So I didn't do as good a job as I wanted to this year. Just in terms of my spirituality, I prayed. I didn't pray enough. I remember too, when I talked to my phone, every time I call my mom, she's like, make sure you're praying, make sure you're reading your Bible, make sure you're watching church on Sunday. And I didn't do it every week, and I wish I could do it more. And I will do it more next semester, but just kind of like learning that you're on your own, you got to really, it really shows you like how strong you are in your faith. Not saying I'm weak in my faith, but showing me that I can do better, and that I still have, you know, I listen to my church music on Sundays. It helps me keep me going. It helps me clean and stuff like that. But this semester really showed me personally that I need to be doing more reading, more talking with God, things of that nature. So personally, that was I wouldn't say a shock, but it just kind of, when you have a lot going on, it's easy to let that slip into the background. But when it needs to be the thing that's keeping me going. So I'm gonna do better with that next semester. And yeah.
Was that what happened with the first test? You didn't pray enough?
I didn't pray enough. That's exactly what it was. I called my mom before my final in my econ class. She said, make sure you pray. And I definitely prayed with her on the phone about that one.
Gotcha. It's like, I think you got this grade because you wasn't studying. No, I got this grade because I didn't pray enough. I should have said 4 prayers that day. I only got 2. That's it. Anybody else? Pete, what would you share? I guess, what was your spiritual journey kind of when you were on campus?
Well, my spiritual journey was very, very interesting. I also was one of the students who kind of started to fall in love with the adventure of being out on my own. I grew up in the church like crazy. And so going out and having that autonomy and being able to kind of connect to culture in a way that I had kind of been restricted from in the past kind of created an allure for it. And then there was a lot of social attention. In college, I mean, in high school, I was kind of the church boy a little bit, but everybody, you know, was kind of like, he the cool church boy athlete. You know what I mean? Like, nah, Percy cool. He don't cuss. He don't smoke. He don't drink. He don't do none of that, man. He the good kid. I went to a public high school, Arlington High School, a ratchet public high school, right? When I got to college, like the social attention was so different. And it was a big population of white students and there were hardly any white students at Arlington. So I would say that it's affected my spiritual life because it became so secondary to the adventure, to academics, to social life. It wasn't until about my junior year when the weight of that really started hitting me. And then my spiritual life took front and center. And I could get into some of the details into the ways that happened, but what it taught me is something that you kind of alluded to. Spiritual life is not meant to be isolated or be like something else, another thing, right? Where it's like social life, academic life, professional preparation, you know, the money and financial responsibility. Oh, spiritual life. I got to make sure I do my spiritual life, make sure I cut my spiritual life's hair. You know what I mean? It's not like one separate thing. It's like, it's the blood that flows through all of the rest of those things. And I think when I recognize that my spiritual well-being, my prayer life, when I recognized that that was the thread that tied everything else together, that's when things, I would say, really came together for me, right? So it wasn't a religious thing. It's kind of what Riley was talking about. And when I would go to center myself, when I was centering myself, like clearing my mind, like understanding, okay, those who keep their mind stayed on me, I would keep them in perfect peace. You know what I mean? I'm stressing about this. Hey, be still and know that I am God. Like, I got your back. Like, you can make it through this. That stuff that Riley was talking about. And then even connecting with others. When it started to, and having my social life, it changed everything. My studies, when I changed my major to philosophy, right? Looking in the scriptures and seeing what some of the different spiritual worldviews about the stuff that I was studying, it even took my academic and my interest, my intrigue with the subject matter to the next level, man. Like, it hijacked it really, and it defined my purpose from there. So, I mean, that's kind of the roundabout way to say exactly what you said. You know, when the spiritual life filled all the rest of the gaps, like, I would say that's when the most clarity and when I began to get the most out of my post-secondary tenure, without question. I'm still interested to see anybody else. Like, what have been some challenges? You know, what have been some things where it's like, you know, I recognize that, you know, when this is out of whack, this is out of whack, or whatever. What have been some challenges or a triumph that you've experienced in your spiritual life?
For me, it wasn't so much the issue of like when you first get to campus and everything, like waking up so I could live stream. So like I'd have my little alarm go off and I'd turn on Eastern Star in the morning. But sometimes I would just like, cause I would watch it from the bed. So I would just like, you know, take a little 20-minute nap and part of the sermon. And I'd like see most of it and then I'd like do a little rewind or whatever. But then I was able to find like my close friends, we go to church together on Sundays. So even though it's not like live streaming my home church and like a church that I know, which I'll still sometimes do beforehand, and still sometimes take a little nap on, but I've been better lately. But just having that accountability and like friends to go with, it really just gives you like a reason to be there and sit down and enjoy the service and whatever else. It just made it more routine for me. So like we have church and ducks. We go to church and then we go to Ducks Donuts and then we go back to campus and go about our days. And so like finding people to do it with and fellowship with just made it like a lot easier. And then also, as far as like personally, spiritually, I've always had this thing where like I pray and I think I have a pretty good relationship with God. But like obviously when times get tough, or like if I have a really hard test coming up, or if I'm super anxious about something, like I'll pray a lot harder and like read my Bible in the mornings and all that type of stuff. Or like I'll take the time to read a devotional, and I would like feel kind of guilty because it's like I'm giving God so much more of my time and energy when I want something back. So that's something that I've been working on, and it's just like being more intentional with it. So like even when things are really good, like that's still reason to pray and praise God for those things instead of just coming to him when I need something, or when I feel like, oh, I should be a little stronger in my word right now because this trial is coming up or whatever else. So that's something that I've been getting better at, been aware of, and continuing to work on.
Yeah. Good.
I would put my input in. Personally, I try to tune into the live stream of church every Sunday. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I oversleep because I just stayed up late last night, which I'm trying to figure out, trying to get that right. But besides that, I feel like because there's 7 days in a week, there's more than one time you can get more than one opportunity to connect with people around you and connect with Christ. I try to tune into Bible study with Ignite, watch Pastor P. Even if I get in for 5 minutes and I just jump in, he's in the middle of his word and stuff like that. I just try to at least tune in and get some information, even if I don't get the full information, which I want to get more into. I just try to at least tune in at least one time for as much as I possibly can. I feel that that's important because, of course, Sunday is it's holy, and you want to keep it holy, like it said in His Word. But there's more than one day. There's 7 days, and I want to at least try to get that into my routine of getting there at least more than one time a week, connecting with Him, read the Word, or pray more, pray heavily, or something like that. At least do something more engaging for myself when I'm at school, because it's hard. You have a lot of stuff you have to focus on. You have to multitask a lot, and just trying to figure out that while combining that with His Word, it's a journey, but of course you'll get there, and I'm just trying to work on that.
Sure.
I know that we're wrapping up, but I just want to say really quickly, I love everything that Hannah and Idris and Riley had just said, and I want everyone who's watching this to remember that there are a million different ways that you can give God glory. It does not have to look like, getting on your knees and praying for hours on end. That's one way it can be. It doesn't mean, going to church physically consistently, even though that is one way and it's an important way. So if you find that your time with God looks differently than it might have looked in high school, or the way that you grew up seeing it in adults, then that's okay, because it is your individual walk with God. I struggled a lot with guilt because I felt like, okay, I didn't identify a physical church home while at Notre Dame. I would sometimes visit my friends' churches who lived around campus, but I would stick to mainly, live streaming churches. I felt like I didn't read and study scripture as much as I could have, but I did try as hard as I could to just be in conversation with God however I could, even if it meant walking to a class and just remembering to be thankful for God placing me here and doing what He saw fit with me, or even if it meant like just saying my grace before I ate food, and just spending time being grateful for that. Like one of my favorite things to do when I was on campus was just like walk around and look at all the landscaping, because at Notre Dame, like when it's spring and the flowers are in bloom, it's gorgeous. And one of my favorite scriptures is the one where it says, look at the flowers. Not even Solomon in all of his splendor could match how beautifully clothed they are. If God can protect them and they do nothing but sit there and they'll go away eventually, then He's going to protect you. So don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough worries of its own. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Like, I would actively tell myself that as I was getting really stressed out, and I found myself almost distancing myself from my relationship with God because I was so stressed and I felt so alone, even though I was never alone. So this is just to say that even if you do find your faith kind of taking a backseat, there's no such thing as not being allowed to pick it back up, because God was always there and He's going to be there when you're ready to re-enter into conversation with Him. So your relationship with God can look so many different ways. So don't try to fit it and conform it to a certain standard of how you feel it should look. Like Percy said, it shouldn't be something that you maintain like a chore. It should just be a part of your reality, a part of your life, where, when you think about it and pick it up, it's there for you in whatever way you need it to be there for you in that moment.
Yeah. I think that's excellent, right? So it's about figuring out, how do you connect with God, right? The way that somebody else connects may not be how you connect. And I think that was kind of part of my journey in college as well, is figuring out, you may visit a friend's church and someone may be like, hey, come to my church. And may be like, oh yeah, I attended. It was nice, but this isn't the way that I connect with God, right? Like they do blank and, I'm not really into blank. Blank isn't the way that I kind of go about connecting with God. And so for some of us, it's going to be some of us are going to be fortunate enough to find a church that feels like the church we grew up with, or feels like the way that we naturally connect with God. For others, it might be coming aside and doing it in a different way, a more personal way in terms of maybe isolating yourself in your room and praying and reading the word or writing about the word. May also be, somebody mentioned music, walking to class, right? Spending time, whether you maybe not listening to music, but walking to class and just kind of praying while you're walking, right? But there's a multitude of ways to connect with God. And I think that speaks to what the goal of ministry and especially youth ministry is, right? It's figuring out, how do we put our faith into action, right? That's the biggest part, right? The goal of working out isn't to work out better, right? The goal of working out is to maintain better health, right? The goal of praying necessarily isn't to become a better prayer, right? It's to become better, like more in union with God. And so really, as we talk about ministry and youth ministry focuses more on young people, but ministry as a whole is really just about figuring out, well, can you help me put my faith into action, right? As I'm moving, as I'm on campus, as I'm doing these things, how do I make sure I stay in union with God? And how do I do it in a way that really engages me personally and fits me? So we all have a journey to kind of figure that out. College is a trying time. It's a great time, but it's also a trying time. So you need that spiritual base all the more so. So mom might not be there to tell you, boy, get up and put some clean underwear on so we can go to church. That may not happen. So it just means we have a little more responsibility in that spiritual journey. And if we're doing that part, we can't pray our way into an A on a test. But if we're praying in general, and if we're in union with God, then we tend to do a lot better job studying our way into an A on a test and feeling more centered in our personal and social relationships. So I think this was great. And I think this all comes together to do exactly what Peace says in the background, ignite.
Yep. That's so real. And y'all know, as we wrapping this up, like, y'all can reach out anytime. We got a group chat among ourselves. I got personal relationships with all of y'all, and y'all know some of y'all have. I've reached out to y'all. We've connected, but we are here for y'all. You know, we got a whole group of young people who are on college campuses right now, and it really does my heart good. I know y'all's parents are super proud. Some of y'all's peers, friends, Pastor Johnson, some of the other mentors in y'all's lives. But mentors are so key. Reach out, utilize your mentors. And any parents that might be watching this, or mentors or friends, don't underestimate dropping a college student a little $20, $30 here and there. So if you're hearing this, go and shoot them some cash. Quit holding on to the checkbook. Y'all know, if y'all been to college, $40 go a long way for a college student. But we look at it like, that's right. Come on, send that cash out. Drop y'all's cash out. We're gonna send y'all offering. But I love y'all. I think about y'all often. I'm always praying for y'all, even if I'm calling to pick with y'all a little bit. I meant to mention this, and I just want to mention it for fun. Y'all, Hannah left. She graduated at 16. You were 16 when you actually left to go to college too, right, Hannah, if I'm not mistaken?
No, I would have graduated when I was 16, but COVID happened, so I graduated 2 months later. So 17 birthdays in a week.
Yeah, that's what's up. But sending young students off, I'm just like, Lord, just keep their minds, keep them protected, and all the rest of that. But super duper proud of y'all, and I will have y'all just stay encouraged. And college students, I hope y'all gleaned some stuff. Put it on replay, because these young people are dropping jewels. Any final encouragement, Jonathan, before we get out of here?
Hey, you know what? I will say this, and this is just a slightly adjacent to what we've been talking about. Over the past year, really over the last few years, but especially during the pandemic, there's been a lot that's happened in our communities, right? There's a lot of conversation that's happened in our communities. We've seen a lot happen with different types of interaction in our communities. But the thing that keeps me optimistic is seeing young Black and brown people who are engaged in their communities and who are tied to the people next to them, right?
Yes.
Whenever people talk about whether or not who gets elected, what laws are made, any of those things I know are secondary to having people of color who are getting educated and who are sowing back into their communities and the lives that they impact and intertwine with. If that's happening everywhere, then I think the future is really bright, and that's what keeps me encouraged, and that's what keeps, I think, P and I engaged to say, hey man, the future's bright, good things are happening because we have smart young people who are civically minded, who are centered in Christ, and who are tied to their fellow man. So that's what keeps me optimistic, and I think that's the only thing that's going to make our communities better, and that's what's going to, I think, turn the tide of some other issues that we have. So keep doing your things, and as P said, I'm incredibly proud. You can reach out for anything you need.
Straight up. All right, y'all take care. Get some rest. Right on for coming out and blessing out the other high school students on this Saturday. Enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Yeah, we'll look forward to connecting y'all on the other side. Peace.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.